Will, talk to me.
ABC Tuesday.
They took his daughter. She's coming home alive.
Will Trent, the series critics are calling powerful must-see TV, continues to thrill.
Shouldn't we strategize before we go in there?
If we screw up this case, a cop killer walks free.
With the riveting conclusion to a 2-part season premiere.
GBI!
Help me!
Get down!
Will Trent, all new Tuesday on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Welcome to tonight's episode of The Night Owl. It's good to have you here, and there's always room for more, so tell your friends, tell your family about this podcast. Your small effort is a big help, so head on over to iTunes and leave a rating. It's truly appreciated. Content may contain adult language and scenarios that may not be suitable for all audience members, so, listeners' discretion is always advised. I think most of us have our share of traumatizing roommate experiences, to the point we'd rather live on an island than ever share space with someone again. And maybe this tale won't be much help for you to change your mind. You check those locks of yours? How about those windows? Are you sitting down somewhere comfortable? Good. Because you probably won't be sleeping tonight. I give you shared space. After my breakup, I didn't really know what life was, to be honest. We lived together, so being around one another, existing in the same space was kind of tough. You go from waking up with someone every morning to waking up an hour early and coming home hours later just to avoid them altogether. Man, that sucks. If it was amicable, I feel like it would have been much easier to share space with each other until the lease ended, but I never had much luck in my relationships, and this one was ugly, and it only got uglier. A part of me would think that there would be some level of decency and respect for one another when it came to dating again, like, I don't know, maybe not bringing someone home, or at least communicate it, but my expectations might be too high. I came home a few times to someone staring at me like I was a fucking guest in my own home. I mean, can you imagine the audacity? It wasn't an ounce of jealousy in me, so don't get me wrong. Mostly because I realized there wasn't an ounce of honesty in our relationship in the first place. That was never there. And I chose to look past it. I mean, the red flags are always the brightest when you no longer care about someone like you used to, right? And that's unfortunate. I realized I had to do something for my own sake, so I immediately got on the hunt for another place. I didn't want to live with anyone, but if it came down to it, I'd have to deal with that for now until I could get back on my feet. And I didn't give a shit about my deposit either. My mindset is most times you don't see your deposit again after you move out anyway, so I made peace with that a long time ago. I got a couple of hits. Some of the places I looked at were much better on paper than in person. Similar to relationships, but I digress. Some people seemed unhinged, and even if the apartment was nice, I didn't have the bandwidth for any psychotic snaps or surprises. Truth be told, I was exhausted. Just exhausted altogether. Life really has done a number on me lately. I was getting close to just sleeping in my car until I got a hit. Someone was looking for a roommate. I mean, the area seemed nice. They lived alone, but was looking for a second. They were apparently quiet, clean, and they worked a ton. So I decided to message them immediately and meet as soon as possible. Who they were in person matched who they are on paper. Seemed to fit the bill, and within that week I was out of my old place. I didn't mention anything to my ex. I just left with whatever was mine, and they could figure out the rest. It wasn't my business anymore. You know, my new roommates seemed really chill too. They apparently had a shitty breakup themselves, and we found some common ground on that. They kept the place clean, which I loved, and seemed really respectful, you know? Well, initially. We discussed cleanliness and respect for others in terms of food and, you know, just personal belongings. And in the beginning, it seems like we understood each other. We both worked a lot, so we never saw much of one another anyways, but I come home a few times to the place being kind of trashed. I'm talking disgusting. Food left everywhere, shoe prints through the house, and many times my food being consumed or things of mine just missing. I addressed it initially, and they denied it, but said they would replace anything that may have been mine that I believe that they consumed. I addressed the mess, and they didn't understand what I was referring to either. I thought talking about it would make it better, but it only got progressively worse. And I didn't care to sound like a broken record either, so once again, I just focused on staying at work and only buying as much as I would eat. I don't like complaining. I'm all about solutions, so to me, that seemed like the most resourceful one. I didn't see them much at all, and I was happy about it. I just don't understand how people could be so fucking inconsiderate, but I'm beginning to understand that there's a lot of that going on in the world, generally speaking. I'd come home late from work some days and the house was pitch black, so I assumed they already went to sleep or I beat them home. I'd hop in the shower and I'd just head straight to bed. That's when I'd hear them rummaging, and sometimes it sounded as if they'd be tiptoeing down the hall. And then they'd stop at my door. A couple of times I watched the doorknob turn, but I always slept with my door locked anyways. I was becoming unnerved. Fucking not again. Well, today I had work early, and I'd be working late. Packed my meals for the day, and there was no sign of my roommate, thank God. And I headed out the door. I hadn't been getting much sleep these days just because of everything. But I did my best to just make it through the day. I worked overtime intentionally. Man, I found myself repeating the same thing I did with my ex. And that made me sad. It also pissed me off. I got home late tonight. It was dark as usual. I beelined to my room and I closed my door. And that's when I heard theirs open. I heard a cabinet open, and I heard them rummaging through the silverware drawer too, where all the forks and the knives and all that. Fucking music started playing. This late. I didn't have the energy to get up. I was exhausted. So I texted them, hey, it's really late and I had a long day, and I'd really appreciate if you show some respect and turn down the music. As I was texting, I heard the footsteps again, and the music was still blurred. If I had to get up, I was gonna raise hell in this place. 2 minutes later, a text came in from my roommate. Hey, I'm out of town until next week. Sorry, I forgot to mention it. Work's been busy these days, so I haven't been home much. Is everything okay? I was paralyzed. I looked at my door as I watched the doorknob attempt to turn. So there you have it. Tune in next week for another story to keep you up at night. You guys have yourself a safe and amazing weekend. And if you can, sleep tight.